Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. We've got a couple of cooler but drier days today and tomorrow before it will start to turn a bit warmer, perhaps towards the end of the week into the weekend, as we do waft up something a bit more of a humid and warm air mass from the south, but it will also be accompanied by instability and lower pressure. So we're likely to see heavy showers, thunderstorms and longer spells of rain. So again, depends what would you prefer, colder and or cooler and drier weather, or warmer but pretty unsettled. So we've got a bit of a split coming up over the next 5 days, and we'll explore that on the latest UKV. As we head beyond that, let's look at the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensembles. It's looking likely as we head through the first 10 to 15 days of May, it's going to be pretty unsettled. Initially mild or a little bit warm, but some of the longer range charts are starting to show something a little bit cooler. Average to below average, perhaps, as we start to see low pressure sit over the top of us, pulling air in from the north or northwest. Not a good outcome if you want anything dry and warmer. Again, not a good outcome if you want anything like a heat wave or anything like that through May. It is really quite a drab scenario, one of the sort of the worst scenarios you can get this time of year, as you can't really get cold northies or easterlies. That edge to our north or east is kind of running out. The worst you can really get is low pressure sat over the top of us with a cold Arctic air mass pulling in from behind. So we'll have to see what the runs are showing, but as I said in yesterday's video, it's continuing to deteriorate in the longer term in terms of anything warmer and drier, continuing to look cooler and more unsettled. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. So do start on the live radar. You can see at the moment it is another dry day. As I said, today and tomorrow will be relatively dry. Could be mild or a little bit warm in a few spots, but we've got a lot of thick cloud today, so that will hold the temperatures down. A few specks of rain here and there, but again, nothing too much. And we put on the temperatures. It's around 9 a.m. as I'm recording. It's a bit earlier in the day, and you can see widely temperatures now trying to climb into the double digits, 10 to 12 degrees, and I said could peak around 15 or 16 later. And again, we'll have a look at the UKV in a minute, which will show that in a lot more detail. But it's not too bad today or tomorrow, but just not too much sunshine in some areas, and as I said, there could be quite a bit of thick cloud around, which will hold those temperatures down a bit than what they have been through the past weekends. Now, if you look at the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, you can see over the course of the rest of this afternoon it's pretty cloudy. A few drips and drabs of rain, but nothing too bad at all. As we head into Wednesday, again, could be a bit of rain in the far north and west, but for most areas it's another pretty dry day. Could be a bit of sunshine in the far south and east, but again, lots of thick cloud. As we head into Thursday, this is where things start to turn a lot more unsettled. A warm air mass does move up from the south, but is accompanied by more instability, heavy showers, and increasing risk of thunderstorms as we head through Thursday, and especially into Friday. You can see those big pop-up thunderstorms appearing around midday, potentially turning more multi-celled in a few areas during the afternoon, before eventually clearing away into the evening. And then into Saturday, more showers popping up, not quite as intense and widespread, but still unsettled pattern as we do head through the weekend, with more persistent rain in the far south, where we do have low pressure potentially just sitting, or at least a small trough of low pressure just sitting to our far south, sliding along the south coast, and that will give perhaps some more widespread rain. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see through the rest of today, could see perhaps 15, 16 widely, maybe peaking at 17 or 18 in a few spots. And the north and the east is always going to be slightly cooler, with a bit of a northeasterly flow. Again, a light flow, but coming off relatively cold North Sea still. Again, those sea surface temperatures do take quite a long time to recover. Again, they peak around September, October time. So a good few months away from them being their peak temperatures, so they've still got the lag of winter in there, and it does mean a northerly easterly flow that we have at the moment will give temperatures a little bit cooler than what we'd expect. Temperatures perhaps around that sort of 11 to 14 degree mark along the east coast, and further northwards over higher ground, when there's even even cooler air mass moving in, maybe only 9 or 10. As we get into tomorrow, again, best conditions will be in the similar spots in the south and the west. perhaps slightly higher than yesterday, and that could be due to slightly more sunshine in a few spots, and again 17 or 18, so it could be quite a nice day tomorrow in places, but equally you see that thicker cloud could only be 13 or 14. As we head into Thursday, we do start to pull up that pretty warm air mass, and you see into the afternoon, you could see quite high temperatures in the Far East, 18, 19, or even 20 degrees, but that's just before that weather front moves in, where those temperatures will drop down to the mid to low teens, so it's very temporary, and you can see into Friday, temperatures could still be pretty decent in a few spots widely, 15 to 19 degrees, but you can see how patchy it is, because it is all dependent on the showers. As I said, it is turning warmer later this week. There's no backing down from that. It is looking likely temperatures will be in the high teens quite widely by the end of this working week into the weekend, but it will be accompanied by a lot of heavy showers and thunderstorms. Into Saturday, temperatures again pretty warm in places. Look at that, 19 or 20 degrees for a large area of eastern and northern England. But look in the far south and southwest, only 10 to 14 degrees, and that is because we got rain moving in. So there could be some really nice conditions at times at the end of this week into the weekend, but it's just not going to be for all areas, and it's not going to be consistent. It could be 20 degrees by midday, and by 2 or 3 p.m. with rain moving in, those temperatures will plunge to 13 or 14. And that will be the same as we head into Sunday, and it's all due to the upper air temperatures being generally around average or slightly above. So if we do now have a look at the GFS and see what that is showing over the course of the next couple of weeks for the longer term, again you can see high pressure building in at the moment, and that's going to put up that southerly flow, but low pressure slides in off the Atlantic, and that's giving very unsettled conditions for a time, and that's giving us our heavy showers and thunderstorms, but equally warm weather into the weekend. That pattern continues with low pressure near or close by, or even over the top of us, for the first sort of 10 to 15 days of May, for eventually right in the longer range. We do see high pressure sat more over the top of us, but still relatively cool. So you can see it is warmer this weekend. The upper air temperatures do climb to 5 degrees at 850 HPA or slightly higher, but into the longer term, turning slightly cooler, more greens mixing in there at times, and lighter yellows, with a generally more north or sort of more northerly injections into our air. So yeah, not looking good in the longer term if you want anything drier or warmer, turning cooler and generally more unsettled. If you look at the GEM now, again, high pressure sat over the top of us at the moment. Low pressure continue to run in off the Atlantic over the coming days up against the high pressure. It's going to produce unsettled conditions in places, but equally a bit warmer. And that continues to day 10, before high pressure could start to make more of a return. So GM has unsettled to around the 10th of May before high pressure does return. And again, if we look at the upper air temperatures, you can see, again, nothing particularly warm in the longer term, apart from perhaps into this weekend, where it could be pretty pleasant in a few spots, before turning more unsettled and perhaps cooler. Again, if we compare it to the ECMWF, again, see if that's got any other ideas, or if it's just on the same sort of trajectory. Again, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, pretty cool, pretty unsettled, and that continues all the way to day's hand, and probably the worst out of all runs there, right at the end. It's that typical low pressure sat over the top of us, north or northwesterly direction for north or northwesterly origin for these winds, and it's just going to mean it is cool and cold. Again, nothing ridiculously cool or cold here yet, but those blues are moving in below average conditions and make it feel chilly and unsettled. And we can see as well on the ensembles, these are the latest GFS ensembles, and you can see over the next week or so, generally upper air temperatures are above average, so it's going to be fairly warm to around the 10th of May. Precipitation does increase from around sort of Friday onwards for the London area, so yeah, it's going to be warmer, but going to be very unsettled in places. And that unsettled weather continues all the way to around the 15th to 18th of May, but importantly, the upper air temperatures drop more towards average to below average, so it could remain unsettled, but get even cooler. That is not something we want to be seeing as we head into the middle of May, and as I've continued to say over the past few weeks, hopefully we see something a bit sustained in terms of dry and warm weather, but no signs of that thus far. If you look at the 2-meter temperatures, again, you could see it rising over the coming days to as high as 18 or 19, perhaps towards weekend, or even slightly higher in a few spots, before slowly dropping in the longer term. Again, not dropping ridiculously low, because again, it will depend on precipitation and cloud amount. So it could be 16, 17 degrees with that cooler air mass, or it could be 13 or 14. We'll just have to see. And if we do compare it to the ECMWF, again, very similar, relatively warm over the next week, but turning more unsettled later this working week. And then as a longer term, from around the 10th of May onwards, average to well below average at times, with still pretty high precipitation spikes. Not looking too encouraging, not looking great. As I said, if you want anything drier and warmer, going to be a continuation of this really up and down spring we've had so far. We've had some warmer weather, nothing too widespread, but we've had some generally warm weather, high teens, with some sunshine, but we've had our fair share of very unsettled, pretty horrible cold weather, and that does look likely to continue to be a feature as we head into the middle of May. Again, most of this stuff is quite long in the time frame. Again, anything outside of 7 days is quite unreliable. So things can change, but this is the current trajectory. And as I said, it has been deteriorating over the last few days. Maybe we'll see an uplift. Who knows? We'll just have to wait to see what the models do produce. But at this stage, no signs of anything particularly great as we head into the longer term. So do cherish any warmer and dry weather we have over the next 5 days, especially the dry weather in the next 2 days, and perhaps some warm weather into the weekend, although it's going to be accompanied by some quite unsettled, thundery weather perhaps. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.